Hi everyone, I'm Alex Kantor. I'm a Director of Technology at Modulr. Modulr are an embedded payment system. We connect to many different payment rails. Today, I'm trying something a little bit different. I'm going to kind of bring to life some of what we talked about, but in the story, kind of a fairy tale, different way, and hoping that all of you get some value out of the end of it, even just a little bit. I'm aware that in this room there's different levels of organizational sizes. Some are kind of behemoths with change managers, others are smaller fintechs. So for the bigger organizations, some of this might sound like a fairy tale, but hopefully there'll be something for you to take away at the end. So to start with, I am going to need a name for the troll in my story, and I'm well aware that in a Nordic country, this could end up very badly for a non-native speaker. So who wants to give me a name for the troll in the story? Someone give a suggestion. Come on, somebody must have a name. Give me a good, strong, local name. Ture? Is that pronounced correctly? Perfect. Okay, so
Ture the troll.
Ture the troll. Done. We're now going to follow the story about how this troll was misunderstood. So there once was a very mean, grumpy, and evil troll called Ture. Ture lived in the land of Modulr, a land where the letter A did exist, but was occasionally dropped for coolness and URL purposes. So now the troll generally hid in an area of a land, I think pronounced auditus. So no kind of signs there. But every now and again, Ture would give notice that he would be wandering around and demanding to see evidence of all of the processes that have been put in place, that everyone was following them, otherwise people may just get eaten. As you can imagine, the good folk of Modulr were always very wary of Ture, for no one likes to be eaten, for one, but two, they felt that the mean, grumpy, evil troll, all he wanted to do was slow them down and make them copy and paste evidence from multiple systems into a Word document, which was just forever tedious, boring, and so annoying. It was a nightmare. Sadly, this was the same across many different lands. There are many lands who had their own version of Ture. And what happened is that various rulers left their lands to go to other lands and brought the processes to keep their trolls happy to those lands. And these processes just kept growing and growing, and no one ever questioned why. But they knew it stopped them from being eaten. And that was it. One of the processes that we'll talk about more in the story is the segregation of duty. It has been mentioned many times today. But in Modulr land, this meant that the builders passed their finished goods to the deployers. The deployers would then go through and check if the builders had it verified, have they had it tested, have they filled in the right forms, are the forms all okay? The forms will then go up to the higher approvers. The higher approvers will then check everything they need to do. And then after that point, the deployer had they filled all the paperwork correctly, and all of it was written down, a long waste of time, and it really slowed down the value from the builders getting to the land where all of the connected kingdom can get value from it. Now, years went by in this land, and this process was continually followed, and that value continued to be delayed. But there was one deployer manager who started asking questions. Why do we need to do this? And yeah, we'll go with it. The king of technology is my story. Okay, king of technology. Gave him the answer, because otherwise the troll will eat us. Now, the young deployer manager was just like, okay, I'll go with it. I'm not overly happy with that response, but we'll work with it. And a few months went by, and the deployer manager again saw the frustration of his deployers having to just do this menial deployment work instead of improving the land they were living in. And he was like, why? He was just like, is this really necessary? And the king replied, well, yes, because otherwise the troll will eat you. He took it, he was a bit disgruntled, he went away, he explained it to the team. They're like, fine, we'll just get on with this. The king never really stopped to think about it. He just kept on giving the same answer because he'd been beaten into the same answer from all of the lands that he'd been to. Now, as this is a fairy tale, we do need to shoehorn some things in, so go with me on this. Suddenly, there was a salesman that came around from the land of Kosli. Yes, I know it's, yeah, we'll get there, it's coming up later on. And so Modulr often had a lot of salesmen, but this salesman, something struck a chord. He actually said, we can give you a warm, fuzzy feeling that makes it possible to see exactly how the builder got his building into the land of Modulr. Now, the king loved being warm and fuzzy, because not just because it's -10 outside, but actually, he thought this could make life really easy for gathering evidence for Tore, the evil troll. And obviously, kind of, well, so it wasn't that bad a story. And that would be a way of stopping him eat his people. So the deployment manager was sent on his way and wanted to connect the land of Kosli to the land of Modulr. But then this reminded the deployment manager to yet again ask the question in yet again a slightly different way. He said, you said the troll will eat us, but what value is the troll getting? Except for, what is he doing? What does he want? He's just slowing us down. All the value that I can see is that we know how to deploy it, they don't. Where is the actual value in this whole process? Now, this stopped the king in the tracks. He thought, actually, I've never really sat down and thought about that in that way. We just think to follow the process, to stop being eaten by trolls. So they thought about it. And it's like, sure, it will stop someone malicious acting and putting our code into our land. But if the builders all have controls in place and the controls check that the builder has had another builder check his work and that testing is all done and the testing is to a certain level, then the only value is that it's the ability to deploy. And if we're really honest, do the deployers really know what they're deploying half the time? Or are they just checking the paperwork and making sure it's okay and getting the approval because they've got the access? So there was so much time that could be saved here, and the deployment manager saw an easy way of using Kosli to do this. So they decided to be brave, and they're going to go to the home of Tore, the evil troll, in the land of audits. And they arrived there, and Tore opened his big door, and the king said, "Hi, we just want to collaborate." There was a long pause, a really long pause. And Tore started crying. This was really odd. King and the deployment manager looked at each other going, this is very strange. And he just kept crying and crying, and he just left the room, but suddenly came back with a tray of open sandwiches and herring. Now, it's always important to connect with your local audience when telling a story, so that's why that was shoehorned in there. Now, eventually, the troll did stop crying, and he was able to speak and just said, thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you. No one ever asks me how I feel. No one ever asks me to collaborate. No one ever asked me to be part of this. You just give me the processes, I have to check, you keep trying to hide things, I have to kind of then eat you because you're not following things. I just want to be involved, said Tore, and you've involved me. Oh, said the king and the deployment manager. So you actually want to be our friend? Yes. Right. This is a bit embarrassing. So if we give you a way that you can check, and will you promise not to slow us down? Yes. I just want to see that you have some element of control. I don't care. Just show me. Oh. So we fast forward 3 months, and the deployment manager worked with the land of Kosli. And what they actually did was created a single pane view. Tore could see exactly what he needed to see. He saw where the building happened. He saw the magical thing of Shah. And Shah ending up in the production being the same one. And there he was. What also then happened was that automated approvals can happen through the land of Kosli. So the builders could then get their changes through and have the automated approval, which then led to reduced lead time to change, with another mythical element of DORA, which is coming. DORA is coming. We know this. So that reduced lead time to change, all these three benefits through the empowerment of the builders. So by integrating the land of Kosli, by speaking with the evil troll Torre, who was just so misunderstood and just wanted to collaborate and be friends, they empowered the builders. What happened on top of that then is that the builders then actually broke down their changes into smaller chunks, and they delivered more frequently. The deployers then spent a lot more time also improving the land of Modulr to make that deployment process safer for everyone. Now that kind of brings us to the end of this fairy tale, which actually is a true story, can you believe it? And was a brilliant journey that we did go on with Kosli. But some of you, as I said, may find this a bit of a fairy tale and maybe find it a stretch too far with what you've got at the moment. But for me, what came out of it and the lessons that I really took away, the biggest one was how much empowerment are we blocking by hiding behind the process and not challenging the why? So we talk about automating processes, but have we challenged them? Have we really found out the why? Have we simplified them? So you may not be able to get the full stretch, but you can probably challenge a process and just see what's the why. And worst case, if there's nothing else you can do, just go back to your companies and give your troll a hug. Thank you very much.